Hello students, today we'll be looking at one of the most important chapters of English grammar, which is called voice. What do we mean by voice? I'm sure all of you are able to listen to my voice right now, but that's not what I'm talking about when I say voice. Now the main objective about learning voice, it is basically to enable students frame different types of sentences. The different sentences actually deal with the subject. In one, the subject will be actually doing the action, and in the other, the subject will just be receiving the action. Right now, I would prefer to go back to my first slide, which showed you the picture of the two animals there, very famous, and I'm sure all of you must be very familiar with these two characters, Tom and Jerry. If you can look at these two pictures, it might seem the same to you. Tom running behind Jerry is the first one, and the second, Jerry running away from Tom. Please remember these two statements which I have made. As we go further, you will get a clearer picture of what I am speaking about. Now read the sentences which are given below. The first sentence says, the girl is plucking a flower. Let's look at the sentences which are given below. Here you will find the first sentence says, the girl is plucking a flower. And when I say the girl is plucking a flower, I'm sure you have realized that this is plucking is the verb of the sentence. The next sentence reads, the boy read a book. And here, read is your verb. The next sentence goes like this, the lady wrote a letter, and wrote is your verb. Kindly note all these three sentences. The girl is plucking a flower, the boy read a book, and the lady wrote a letter. Now look at this sentence once again. The girl is plucking a flower. A flower is being plucked by the girl. If you look at the two sentences, they both mean the same. The next one, the boy read a book. A book was read by the boy. Again, both the sentences mean the same. The last one, lady wrote a letter. A letter was written by the lady. Now, if you look at all these three sentences, what has been done is that they have just been presented in different ways. From here, we are actually going to move on to our topic of discussion, which is voice. Can you see the caption there? It's a person holding a loudspeaker. What is voice? Is it my voice that you're hearing, or is it the voice that blares from your throat? It is not. When we speak about voice, in English grammar, we can talk about active voice and passive voice. Which part of the sentence does voice affect? It is directly related to the verb and to the subject. When we say active voice, what do we mean by it? A verb is supposed to be in active voice when the person or the thing, that is the subject, actually performs an action or is the doer of that action. Can you see this sentence here? Raju bought a car. Here, Raju is the subject of the sentence, and if you look at it, car is the object of the sentence. So what has Raju done? He has bought a car. The next sentence says, Sheila had eaten an apple. Here you have Sheila, which is the subject of the sentence, and then you have an apple, which is the object of the sentence. The next sentence reads, the watchman is opening the gate. The watchman is the subject and gate is the object. Here in these three sentences, what do we see? Whether it is Raju or Sheila or the watchman, the three different subjects, they are directly performing an action. And therefore, these sentences are said to be in active voice. Now we move on to passive voice. What do we mean by the word passive? The word passive suggests no action. If you think of your classroom situation, You have a teacher coming into your class and she keeps talking to you about something. If you show the interest and if you start interacting with the teacher, there is a lot of action initiated between you and the teacher and the class becomes an interactive one. Now, if you simply keep quiet and the teacher keeps delivering the lecture, it becomes a one-way issue. Here, you people are nothing more than passive listeners. You do not do anything. You are just listening quietly. Now, passive voice. When do we say a verb is in passive voice? When the subject of the sentence does not do anything, but something is being done to that subject. That is when we say that the verb is in passive voice and the subject of the sentence becomes the receiver of action. Let's look at examples. The previous slide said Raju bought a car, and here we say a car was bought by Raju. Can you see here a car was bought by Raju? Here a car is the subject of the sentence and Raju has become the object of the sentence. What has now Raju done? He has bought the car. And therefore, nothing is happening to the subject. The subject is still and Raju has performed the action on the subject. An apple had been eaten by Sheila. An apple, this is the subject of the sentence. What has happened to the subject? It has been eaten by Sheila. So the apple is constant there. Apple is not doing anything. In fact, Sheila has done something to the apple. The gate is being opened by the watchman. The gate is the subject of the sentence and here the watchman is the object of the sentence. The gate is not doing anything. It's the watchman who is actually opening the gate. Now, how do you change the sentences from active to passive voice? For this, you have to be really very thorough with your tenses. We will go stepwise so you have a detailed information on how to change the sentences from active to passive voice. Step 1, the object has to be changed to subject. Step 2, the subject will be changed to object. Step 3, the verb is changed to its passive form. Now, while changing the verb to the passive form, you have to pay due importance to the tense in the given sentence. And in 99% cases, the preposition by is used in passive voice. Let's have a look here. You can see that there is a sentence which says the farmer killed a snake. The farmer is the subject of the sentence, killed is the verb, and a snake is the object. Now we are just doing the interchange of the subject and the object as was mentioned to you in the previous slide. A snake, which was the object, has taken the position of the subject. The farmer, which was the subject, has taken the position of the object. And the verb killed, there's a small change in this form of the verb. It's now was killed. That is the change we have made in the passive form. Now the sentence in passive voice reads as a snake was killed by the farmer. Please remember children, when you are changing sentences from active to passive voice, do not at any cost change the definite articles. They need to be maintained as they are in passive voice. As I have been mentioning again and again that changing the sentences from the active to the passive voice depends on the verb and the tense of the verb in active voice. We will now be looking at the three tenses in details: the present tense, the past tense and the future tense. When we talk about the present tense, I'm sure you all must have already done in your previous classes the simple present, the present continuous and the present perfect. The same with past tense, simple past, past continuous and past perfect. And here when we are talking about the future tense, we will just be dealing with the simple future. Moving on to present tense, it is simple present. In active voice, the sentence reads, Mary eats an apple. Now in passive voice, the sentence will read as, an apple is eaten by Mary. When I say that, then what have I done? What is the rule that I have applied? Here I would like to tell you something. I will be using some technical terms as V1. V1 is the present tense. V2, that is the past tense. And V3. What does V3 mean? Does it mean the future tense? No, V3 is the perfect form of the verb, or you may call it the participle form of the verb. For the time being, please keep looking to the right side of your screens. When I am talking of a verb, write. Write is the present tense. Wrote is the past form, and written is the perfect or the participle form. So when I talk about write, this is V1, wrote is V2, and written is V3. I'll give you another example. Go, went, and gone. Go here is your V1, went is V2, and gone is V3. I'm sure you must have by now got a fair idea of what this V1 and V2 and V3 stands for. Now when you change a sentence which is in simple present to passive voice, the rule that is followed is add the helping verb is, are, or am plus V3. When we are talking about eat, the three forms of eat, it is eat, ate, and eaten. And when I say it is, are, or am plus V3, I mean this form of the verb. Now, why did I use is here? That is again dependent upon the subject. The subject here is singular, and therefore I'm sure you must have once again done your subject verb concord, which tells you that with singular subject it is that is used, and therefore in passive voice it is an apple is eaten by Mary. Once again I'm repeating the rule for you. When you're changing a sentence from active to passive where the verb is simple present, you have to use the rule is, are, or am plus V3. We are now moving on to present continuous. When we talk about present continuous tense, it is, are, or am plus verb plus ing, and that you can see it very clearly here. Mary is eating an apple. This is in active voice, and in passive voice the sentence will read as an apple is being eaten by Mary. The rule here is you have to use the helping verb is, are, or am. You have to add being to that, and to that you have to add the third form of the verb. Once again you see here is, being, eaten, is, or, am plus being plus V3. Moving on to the next one, which is present perfect. The sentence is Mary has eaten an apple. I'm sure you know that when you frame a sentence in present perfect form, the rule is has or have plus V3, which you can already see here in active voice. And in passive voice, when the sentence is changed, it will read as an apple has been eaten by Mary. So what is the rule that has been applied here? It is have or has been plus V3. Now suppose this had been apples instead of apple, then this has would have changed to have. Apples have been eaten by Mary. So please remember, your helping verb directly depends on the subject of the sentence. I would like you all to once again thoroughly go through these slides again at the end of the presentation, so that you have a very clear idea of how the changes are effected in simple present, present continuous, and present perfect tense. Once you have this clear in your head, going through the past tense is an extremely easy job, because it is only the tense of the helping verbs you will see which keep changing. Past tense, this is simple past. The same sentence has been repeated, you will see, in almost all the tenses. This is just to give you a fair idea of how it works in active and passive. Here the sentence is in simple past, Mary ate an apple, and the same sentence when written in passive voice will read as an apple was eaten by Mary. The rule here is to change a sentence from simple past to passive voice. The rule is was or were plus V3. Moving on to past continuous. Mary was eating an apple. In passive, it will read as an apple was being eaten by Mary. The rule here is was or were, which will act as the helping verb. Add being to that plus V3, which is the perfect or the participle form of the verb. You see here, an apple was being eaten by Mary. Past perfect, Mary had eaten an apple. In passive voice, the sentence will be an apple had been eaten by Mary. So what is the rule? Even before the rule flashes, I'm sure you will be able to understand that it is had been plus V3. If you remember, when we did the present tense, it was has or have been plus V3. In past tense, it is just the helping verb which has become past tense. Had been plus V3. If you keep practicing this on a daily basis, this will become a cakewalk for you, and these rules won't seem as complex as what it seems to you today. When we talk about the future tense, we are only going to look at simple future because the passive voice is not possible with future continuous, and with future perfect, though we do use passive voice, it's not so very commonly used. So look at this sentence here. Mary will eat an apple. This is simple future. In passive voice, the sentence will be an apple will be eaten by Mary. So the rule is, if you have to change from simple future to passive voice, the rule is will be plus V3. I hope all these three tenses that we discussed in details have become very clear to you. For your convenience, whatever I spoke about in individual slides has been presented in a table format in the next slide. Here, it's the same verb which has been used here. It is eat or eats, changed to is, are, eaten. Similarly, the whole list has been put in front of you. Kindly go through it, and each time that you come back to voice, this one table should enable you understand it in detail. Now please remember, we need not always use nouns as the subject of the sentence. In case the subject of the sentence is a pronoun, even that pronoun undergoes a small change in passive voice. As has been shown here, I changes to me, you changes to you, or rather it remains you. He changes to him, she changes to her, it remains the same. We changes to us, and they changes to them. Look at these examples which have been given here. It says, I threw the ball with great strength. Once again, before I explain to you the pronouns, let me tell you, here the verb is in simple past. That is why here you will see was thrown is the form that has been used. If you remember, when a sentence is in simple past, the rule says was or were plus V3. The ball here is a singular subject, and therefore the helping verb is was. The ball was thrown by me with great strength. Can you see that the I has changed to me here? This is the change I was talking about in the table which was shown to you previously. The second sentence says they were chasing the wild wolves from the village, and the passive sentence is the wild wolves were being chased by them from the village. They has changed to them in passive voice. These are the changes which will be initiated as far as the pronouns are concerned when you change sentences from active to passive voice. There are some more small, minute details which you need to keep in mind. Though even if you are not very clear about this, it's not going to affect the correctness of your sentence. But while writing more complex sentences, it is better that you keep these micro details in mind. In the first sentence here, if you have a look, it says people speak Hindi in North India. When we are speaking about a language being spoken, it's very obvious that animals will not speak any language. Inanimate objects are not going to speak. It is only the people who will speak. So the passive sentence where we said the object becomes the subject, subject becomes the object. If you see, the subject people has been completely done away with in the passive voice. It just says Hindi is spoken in North India. The question is, why has people been done away with? Because it is very, very obvious. No one other than human beings speak a language. And that's the reason the obvious subject has been done away with. If you look at the second sentence, it says the policeman arrested the burglar. The policeman is the subject of the sentence. No one other than the policeman has the right to arrest anyone. And therefore, when we changed it to passive voice, the sentence stops at arrested. And if you look at it, if we complete this sentence, it will read by the policeman. This is what we have done away with. It's not required because normal human beings like you or I, we do not have the right to arrest anybody. It's only the policeman who has these rights. And therefore, the obvious subject has once again been done away with. You may use this later when you are absolutely thorough with how to use passive voice properly. With interrogative sentences also, we can change it to passive voice. If you look at this sentence, it is who has broken the glass. This is a question which we keep commonly asking. Who has broken the glass? Who took my book? These are the sentences very, very commonly used. You know, the common mistake which I've seen children doing is when we say change this to passive voice, it immediately says the glass has been broken by whom? Or if you look at the second sentence, the class will be cleaned by whom? When you speak, it doesn't seem so wrong. But when you write, this is a very, very wrong structural usage. The correct usage is by whom has the glass been broken in the first case, or by whom will the class be cleaned in the second case. Please remember, you have to maintain proper structure, and it would be better if you could start your questions with by whom, as it shows in both these cases. Coming to another form of sentence, which is command or request. Look at the examples which are given below and follow the way it is being shown here. The first sentence says, please bring the book. This is very obvious. This is a request. So how do you change it to passive voice? It would be better if you change sentences from active to passive voice, beginning with let. It makes your job very easy. You will not go structurally wrong. You will not go wrong with the way the passive sentence is constructed. So please remember, commands and requests in passive voice, let is your keyword with which you begin your sentence. Let's look at the next example. Take away the glass. Let the glass be taken away. Once again, here we have begun the sentence using let. Keep in mind, in case of commands and requests, begin the sentence in passive voice with let. Structurally, you will be perfect. We now take a quick recap at what we have learned today. The first slide told you the objective behind learning voice. The second one gave you a detailed description of what active voice is, followed by a detail of what passive voice is. We followed that up with showing you all the different transformation in present tense, past tense, and in future tense. Once we finished the sentences in the 3 different tenses, we moved on to interrogative sentences and how you change interrogative sentences to passive voice. That was followed by commands and requests and the key word let to be used when you're changing commands and requests to passive voice, which was mentioned to you. With this, we come to the end of this presentation. This lesson can be used by students from classes 6 to 10. There will not be any change. It is just that the exercises will move from simple to complex. You will be coming across the exercises at the end of this presentation, which you can solve and practice. Thank you and all the best.